Welcome to Unbounded Potential's Go Beyond series with your hosts, Karen King and Selma from Radis. Our mission is to help you tap into your innate potential by providing you with cutting-edge speakers and leading-edge information.
You will receive the insights, tools, strategies, and mindset that you need to empower yourself so that you can empower others as together we empower the world. Well, welcome everyone. We'd like to express our deepest gratitude to you for joining us on this beautiful journey to make 2014 a year about you. It's truly an honor to be sharing this time with you. I'm Selma, along with my good friend Karen. We are your producers and hosts for this interview series where you're getting awesome information and inspiration and tools and techniques from so many diversified leading-edge speakers, awakening and guiding you to step into a healthier, wealthier, and wiser world of unbounded potential. Now, tonight's guest is known for developing special skills for decision-making that will allow you to know what is your highest and best good for your love life, personal and business life, and ultimate spiritual mastery. Now, Lori Zandoff also shares this about our guest. Maureen is one of the most incredible facilitators I've had, and I've had powerful workshop leaders. Wow is the word that comes to mind. I'm not sure what more I can say. Maureen is the only one who has raised my level of consciousness and has given me, one of the most powerful tools to put in my toolbox. And she does this with such warmth, welcoming, and loving manner. Very nurturing. So, Karen, can you introduce tonight's guest in a little bit more detail?
Absolutely. Maureen St. Germain is a dedicated direct channel to Source. She's connected directly with the Ascended Masters, especially St. Germain, and is a member of the Council of Nine. She was a corporate executive for over 20 years when Spirit compelled her to turn her passion into her profession. She traveled and taught meditation to over 10,000 students worldwide for almost 20 years. Here's your chance tonight to learn from a person who's a single mom, raised 4 sons and put them through college, paid off the family debt, and developed many spiritual shortcuts and created systems for recovering A-type person. Sound like you? Well, who isn't in today's busy world? She's fun, funny, and helps you see the joy in life. Maureen founded Transformational Enterprises in 1995 to provide tools for personal change. After she was given access to a dimension that has been closed for eons in 2007, she founded the Akashic Records Guides to give both training and expression for individuals to give guidance from the Akashic Records. She's written 3 Amazon bestsellers, including Beyond the Flower of Life, and her current release, Be a Genie. Her next book is called Waking Up in 5D. She's also a prolific meditation instructor, has written and composed over 15 guided meditations. Maureen's tools help you get faster results. She shares with us today her deep connection with the higher self, how we are becoming fifth dimensional, and why you want to know your higher self personally. Learn tools she's developed to meet your higher self. Learn to quiet brain chatter so you can explore your true purpose and claim every day a day of heaven on earth for you and everyone you meet. Welcome to the Unbounded Potential interview series, Maureen St. Germain.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's just a pleasure to be having you on our show. Now, Maureen, you were a corporate leader for so many years. Your focus now has been, the teachings of the Essenes and Edgar Cayce and Ascended Masters and esoteric mysteries from around the world and special connection with the dolphins and angels and Merkaba, Ascended Masters, numerology, Akashic Records, and the list goes on and on. How and why did you become a spiritual teacher, and where did all this thirst for esoteric knowledge come from?
I think the search for esoteric knowledge came from before this lifetime. I can tell you that as a little girl growing up in a Catholic family, we had one of those big books Lives of the Saints, and it had a gold leaf around the edges, and it was this beautiful binding, and it was like the size of a dictionary, and I was always pulling it out to read it and learn. And as a little girl, I don't think my mother thought that was a cool thing for me to be doing. So she hid the book so I wouldn't pull it out so much because she was worried I would wear it out. Well, when I couldn't find it on its usual spot on the bookshelf, I went right to the closet, got a chair, stood on the chair, and knew right where it was. So she stopped hiding it.
Well, even at one time, you considered becoming a nun, did you not, Maureen? Because you were so...
Yes.
Yes,
this is very interesting. My aunt was a nun, and I really, really, really wanted to become a nun. I also was very interested in boys, and so what I thought I would do is, after high school, I would just, slide over to the convent. And I went for like a week-long stay, and everything was lovely, but I realized at that point that I really needed to be more secular. So I didn't... My mother was really upset because I went to the college that I was going to go to as a postulant, but I went in as just a plain old student instead. I had been accepted at both the Catholic school and this other school that was near the nunnery, so to speak, and I ended up going to the non-Catholic school instead of the Catholic school without the oversight of this other, situation. So it was very interesting. But I always thought that I would be a nun up until I got into high school. And then, as the hormones kick in, you realize, well, wait a minute, there's a piece here that I'm going to miss.
I could be missing out on something here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back to it maybe a bit later or something like that.
Well, it's not that big a deal, but yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, they call you kind of like the practical mystic. Is it because you're dabbling in so many different areas, Maureen? Because it's just like you're astounding. I've read things.
Yes, actually, that's it's a really fun term, the practical mystic, and it actually came from the fact that so many of the tools that I created were things that I thought I should have. If I were, a mom or, as I went through my life and I, raised a family and did all these things, I realized how many times it would have been nice if somebody else had done all the legwork. And it kind of reminds me, I grew up on a farm, so we made everything from scratch. And yet everybody else around me was using like the Betty Crocker mix and that kind of thing. And I thought of using that, but that seemed so dated. So then I thought, well, let me copy Martha Stewart and say I'm the Martha Stewart of spirituality. But then she went to jail, so that wasn't a good idea.
You could be guilt by association there, Maureen. Yeah.
Yeah, so, the Practical Mystic sounds like a really good name, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's just astounding, all your interrelationships, and we're going to be talking a little bit more as we go through the interview. Wow, she's just fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Maureen, I have to know more about this. You started with an annual salary of $35,000. You single-handedly paid off $50,000 of you and your former husband's debt, plus put 3 of your 4 sons through college at the tune of $100,000, manifested the career of your dreams, landed a 3-book deal with a major publisher, went on to write bestsellers like Beyond the Flower of Life. You've wrote and recorded over 15 meditation CDs and married the man of your dreams. Okay, I'm taking copious notes here. How on earth were you able to do all of this? What was your secret?
Well, first of all, like the children, I had 4 sons. They came one at a time. So it isn't like you're doing all of this at once. What I will tell you is I used the process that I've called the genie system to manifest all that money, because I did not have enough money to put my sons through college, and I chose to manifest it because I knew there was no other way. And I have many friends who said to me, we're so impressed that you decided you were going to do that for your kids, because I couldn't afford to do it. And that woman was making a whole lot more money than me and didn't have the debt load I had, and yet I still pulled it off. So how did I do it? I used the system I'll call the genie system, and I'll give you detail about it in a little bit. But what I want to share here is I used a very clear manifestation tool that I developed in the Genie system, and it's based on a concept that you would use 3 elements, which I'm now labeling 3D, 4D, and 5D, and you allow yourself to go beyond where you want to have the outcome. So initially, all I wanted to do was come up with that first $5,000 payment for my son's college tuition, the one that was going to this, lovely, well-known Eastern Seaboard school. And after I earned that $5,000 and paid that bill for the first semester, and keep in mind that his older brother said to him, "Quit dreaming. There is no way Mom can afford to send you to that school." And the other one, the one that was in the school, he said, "Well, Mom says she can do it, and I'm going to let her try." He had enough scholarship money to get him started, but I still had to come up with an additional $10,000 per year, $5,000 per semester. So at the end of the first semester, I looked around and I thought, there is no way I want to do that again. That was way too much work. And I began to realize that what I really wanted wasn't $5,000 again. I wanted $35,000, so I didn't have to, struggle that I was going to manifest it all in one big package.
I like that idea. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I teach people is, first of all, think about what you really want. Sometimes you think what you want is enough money to make a car payment, but what you really want is a car. And maybe you can get a car that you don't have car payments. Maybe you'll win a car. Maybe, your neighbor's going to sell a great car to you because they don't want to bother with putting it out and advertising. So you focus on what you really want. And most often, when I'm teaching the manifestation classes, I discover that people don't realize what they want. They think they know, but when we start asking questions and I push them to answer this question and this question, they step out of it and they realize what they really want. One of the ways to find out what you really, really want is to force yourself to write 25 things that you really want. They can be tangible or intangible. And what happens is you hit a wall, and then you have to push past it and, go to the second wall if you get that. Okay, so going back to the whole concept, I realized that I wanted this bigger amount of money. Now, at that point, even though I had been a CEO with much bigger budgets, like millions of dollars of budgets as a CEO, it was never my money. So the idea that I would possess $35,000 was terrifying to me because I knew I needed to possess it in order to pay it to the school, but at the same time, I'd never had probably more than $2,000 or $3,000 in my account at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I then thought, well, if I'm too afraid of the money, I need a picture. And I need to be able to visualize, well, what would that look like? So if you were to do it with me, what do you think would be a good visual? I don't know how far you've gotten into the book. You may know the answer to this one, but what would you use as a visual in your mind's eye that would produce the result that I was looking for with my son's tuition?
I haven't read the book.
Anything? Okay. Well, you're off the hook then. You can just guess.
I can just guess. Would you have a picture of him graduating from that school in your mind's eye?
Yes.
Oh, look, I'm
couldn't
good.
manage. Yeah, you are good. I couldn't manage the thought of the money, so I had to go with something that was visible and proved it. And most people know that you cannot go through graduation if you haven't paid the bill. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty sure thing that the bill was paid if I was seeing him. But you know what? I was so terrified, Salma, so terrified that I couldn't bring it up. I couldn't conjure it up in my mind. And then I thought, well, now what am I going to do? And I realized I could take a picture from his high school graduation, a photograph from his high school graduation. Now, of course, today you'd use a Photoshop, but back then, we didn't use computers like that, or at least much, So I used a photograph from his high school graduation, and I pretended that it was his college graduation, and I would look at the picture and hold it in front of me like I was talking to it, and I would say, there were some scary moments, but it wasn't that hard. Now, the interesting thing, what that does is it follows this protocol that I put into the Genie system. Number one, what you resist persists. So you can't deny how frightened you are, because the minute you deny it, you're putting energy out that's going to push against you. You know, you put your hand up in the air and you tell someone, okay, you know, put your hand up in the air, and you move towards them. They're going to push back. That's a normal reaction. So what you resist persists. So you cannot resist the stuff that you've got that's not working. You have to look at it and say, you know what, this isn't so cool. I'm not crazy about it, but it's what I got. It's what I got. I got an old jalopy. And over here, what I really have is a Lexus. And so you hold the visual of two. Now again, back then we didn't have this tool, but today there's those TVs that are called picture-in-picture, and you can watch more than one television show at the same time.
That's right.
So that's what you do. You let two versions of the reality to be real. Now think about this. When you go into the movies or you go to a theater production, you suspend disbelief. You suspend disbelief, meaning that when you're sitting in that seat, if the actor makes a joke, you laugh. If there's something scary that happens, you might jump or gasp. And that's you suspending disbelief that you're, number one, that the scene you're watching is real, and number two, that you're a participant, because otherwise you wouldn't be gasping. So what happens is you realize and you recognize that we have accepted the ability to hold more than one version of the reality. One version of me is participating in the movie. Another version of me is sitting in the chair watching. Mm-hmm. So the ability to know that there's two versions of the reality at the same time is very powerful. And you don't look at it as, well, I can't hold this belief if I hold this belief, that they conflict. Instead, you say, that's that version of the reality, and this is this version of the reality. Then in that business of there were some scary moments, but it wasn't that hard, I had no idea how I was going to pull this off. I just announced to myself and the universe it wasn't that hard, because I knew if I said it long enough, it would start to happen. It's kind of like you fake it till you make it. Okay. Now, in my case, the third element that I haven't told you about, and this is the critical piece that's not in anyone else's manifestation kit. Nowhere will you find this in any of the tools you'll read anywhere, and that is to make a real-time 3D conversation that produces an emotional response in you. For example, if you're driving a new car, this is in your mind's eye, this new car is this imaginary car that you really, really want, but you're going to manifest it, so you see yourself in this, let's say it's a new Lexus, and you need to create a scene. What you're going to do is create a scene where you're driving into the grocery store parking lot, and you get out of the car and you start to walk towards the store, and you run into somebody that you know. And they say, you know, Salma, I didn't know that was you. Are you driving alone, or that didn't look like your car? And you smile, and you lean back, and you go, yeah, that is my car, actually. I just got it. Isn't it cool? At that moment, it creates an emotional response. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. It does indeed. I love this.
Later in the show, we can talk about it, but the important piece here is that you recognize that there would be somebody in that future version where you have already achieved that outcome that is having a real-time conversation. So in my case, my imagined conversation was with my son, who would obviously be there at graduation, and I would be looking him in the eye and saying, you know, there were some scary moments, but it wasn't that hard.
Right.
Oh, I like that.
So, you know, it's pretty amazing stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. And I did this because I meditated on how can I do this? How can I pull this off? And it wasn't a matter of me listening or looking at what was going on around me and saying it's not possible, because if I accepted the feedback that was coming in, of course, it wouldn't have been possible. But I refused to accept the naysayers in my world, and I have toolkits for that, so that you have things to say to people when they say something to you. You have ways to dismiss them. You know, I like to joke around, and when I lived in the Midwest, there was this newspaper that landed on your doorstep every Wednesday, and it was advertising for cars and advertising for dating. And if you weren't looking for a date or a car, the thing was trash. And so, you know, you'd pick it up and you'd put it in the recycle bin. every single week you had to do that. And if it rained and you forgot, you get this crappy piece of junk on your front stoop. Nobody ever chases after the little boy or little girl that drops it. You don't call the company that produces it and complain. You just pick it up and toss it. You look at it long enough to know, hey, you know what, this is not for me, and you throw it away. And it's a very simple concept, but when you look at it and say, oh yeah, I get it, it's just being broadcast generally for everybody, that's not got my name on it, I don't accept that. The same thing happened when I was learning to teach the Merkaba meditation. They had closed the system. There weren't going to be any more teachers. And they'd already trained the first group, and they said, that's it, we're not taking any more students. And I remember being told this, and I remember thinking, well, they're not talking to me. And I proceeded to do things that allowed me to be into the system, even though the system wasn't open. Now, that's another tool that I will call the divinity test, and that's in the book, Be a Genie. And the divinity test is a lovely name to help people understand what's going on. So in my case, I knew from a lady that had been in my class that she had to take the class a second time as an observer, and that second time was required before she would be certified to be a teacher. So when the class came around a second time, I signed up for it. The instructor said to me, well, Maureen, what are you doing? Why are you taking this class again? Didn't you get it? And I said, I got it. And I didn't want to tell him because I knew he was going to give me this pitch again about we've already got all our students, all of our teachers, rather. And so I kind of hemmed and hawed, gave him some runaround answer, and he pushed. So I said, well, I intend to be one of the facilitators. And, then he proceeds to roll out his pitch about we're not training anymore. And I said to him, Jeffrey, that's your reality. I choose another.
Ah.
I was certified 9 months later. And I taught for almost 20 years. He dropped out after about 3.
Is that the one with Melchizedek? Is that the one
Yeah.
that you took training?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're almost like the last one. He doesn't do that anymore, does he?
Well, I was trained back in 95,
Okay.
and that was the last class he personally trained. And then there was a whole school that went on for a little while, and then now that has all ended. That's all true.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I've got notes here.
But I still have, just so your listeners know, I do have the Merkaba DVD available in both the short version, which is just the meditation teaching, or the long version, which is a huge body of knowledge that I was adding to the original material that I taught in those in that coursework. So you can get it, a short version or a long version. If you really want to learn it, you can still do that.
Right. Okay. Fabulous. Fabulous. Okay, Maureen, the word higher self has, many synonyms in our world, like inner wisdom or spirit self or, soul essence or authentic self or the divine or the Teo within. Maureen, what is your definition of the higher self? And how?
Well, I'm glad you used all these other terms because this is an important element that I make a huge distinction between the higher self and intuition, your angels and guides and all of that. And my distinction is pretty straightforward and very clear, and that is I say that the higher self is the version of you that is fully plugged into God. And it is, in layman's terms, the equivalent of what everyone else says is the heavenly body of you. So you in heaven, that's your higher self.
Okay.
Now, it's very interesting because one of the things I tell people, a lot of people hold their higher self in very high regard, and they listen to their higher self and they follow the wisdom of the higher self, which I recommend. But I will also say the higher self is not the boss of you. And this is a very interesting thing, but it challenges everyday thinking. It challenges our linear thinking because the higher self is your ally. It is not the boss of you. And the best way I know to explain that is to say your higher self is like you being the CEO of a company. And you call the finance guy or gal and you say to her, look, I'm going to meet with the banker tomorrow. We've got that balloon payment that's due next week. I want to write that $20,000 check today so that I can give it to him tomorrow. Can we do that? She says yes. Did she give you permission? Now be careful because I love trick questions. What do you think? Karen, you haven't said much.
Did she give you permission? Wow. I would say no.
That's right.
We don't need permission.
What did she give you?
Well, she gave you your free will to make that decision.
Yeah, well, you have free will. She said yes. So what does that mean? What kind of information? What did she give you in terms of information? She gave you information about the state of affairs. She didn't give you permission. She gave you information. Do you see?
Give you some background, right?
Well, not only background, but information you didn't have. You know, when I was a little girl, we sat around the kitchen table and we had these healthy discussions about stuff we knew and learned. And I can't tell you how many times my father would say, well, prove it. The encyclopedia is over there. And we would get up from the dinner table, go get the encyclopedia, and prove to him whatever it was we were telling him. And it was fabulous because, to me, the proof was everything. And so why do I tell people that the higher self is not the boss of you? It's your ally, not the superior being over you. Is because I want people to recognize that being here in 3D is the main deal. And it's the main deal because this was the mission of creation. Think about what God might be. Think about all that is. If God is everything, why does she need to create? He's already everything. She's already everything. And the answer is God chose to separate from that which is inseparable. So those that chose to be part of that plan separated from that which they knew where they were inseparable. So the number one thing that people long for is communion or joining with either another person or with God or, in communion in prayer or whatever you would call it. And then the second thing is the prime directive was to make something different, to create a boundary and to pretend God wasn't there everywhere all the time and to see what you could do with that. And then that would literally expand the database. So the way to make God bigger than what God already is would be to go out and create and pretend that God wasn't there all the time. So the prime directive is make new stuff, increase the database. So if our prime directive is to increase the database, it's all good, you see. And that's what happens when you move into 5D. You begin to see that which you did not see before. Your higher self holds that energy and allows you to see that. So one of the things that we're going to work on today, and it'll be part of what we share later, is this whole business that the higher self is this evolved version of you that's so plugged into God that the not God choice doesn't occur to you. And I can explain that further, but I want to give you a chance. I've been talking a while here, and I need to give you a chance to ask a question or say something.
But Maureen, what if people don't feel like they're plugged into God? Is it something, maybe a belief system or something like that, or their feelings of maybe inferiority?
Or I can't do that. I'm not evolved enough. I haven't ascended enough. These are questions that, I know a lot of people are saying in their mind.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
And so
one of the things that we do is one of the first things you do when you say, I can't, I'm not plugged in enough, I don't think I can handle it, whatever it is, it's just like when you have a messy house. Have you ever heard of a woman who clears up her house so that she can have the housekeeper come? We all do it, right?
Oh, yes, we've heard that before.
If we have a housekeeper, we're fortunate enough to have a housekeeper, we're cleaning and organizing it so that when she gets there, she can really dig deep.
And she won't realize what pigs we really are. That's really
Some of us have that, yeah. I suppose that's also a possibility. So one of the things I recommend is that you learn to do clearing work for yourself and also to recognize that you can actually clear other people that are problems in your life. And that's a very powerful thing to know, that, energies, dark energies, entities, all kinds of stuff don't need to be here anymore. The rules changed. And because the rules changed, anybody can clear out energies. there are simple tools that I teach on how to do that and why they're here and so on. So the clearing work comes first. After we do clearing work, then the meditation work follows. And there's all different kinds of meditation. Obviously, I'm an expert on the Merkaba, but there's also other kinds of meditations, like guided meditations, and that's what I do. My guided meditations give people what I would call a set of information, and then I say, you might want to repeat after me or make it personalized by adding your part, like that. So what happens is, first you do the clearing work, then you do the meditation. Sometimes you use a guided meditation to get you ready to do the clearing work. So, sometimes you have to go in and just use somebody else's words to get you started. And it is true that sometimes people feel like they just can't. But one of the things that they realize is that when you're in an environment of unconditional love and you feel so appreciated and you feel this warm, loving energy that comes through when you do guided meditations with somebody who you feel good about, what happens is your energy shifts. And here's a very fun thing to do that totally cuts through all of that anybody can do, and that is you say in a very sincere way as a prayer, I'm asking God to show me how much I am loved.
Oh.
And here's what happens. Even if you have no feeling, let's say you can't feel or see or hear anything, you don't notice any change, and then you say it again the next day and the next day. Every time you have these moments of blackness, where you feel this horrible and, sorrow and anger and frustration, you say, okay, dear God, I want you to show me how much I'm loved. What happens is, even if you don't notice it, over the course of time, your consciousness shifts enough that you start to feel better. It's almost like if you're standing in a hole, someone's throwing in dirt. And even though you think they're throwing dirt on you, and we're making a joke here, the hole gets less and less and less, so pretty soon there's no hole. But that's initially what happens is, dear God, show me how much I'm loved. Now, there are people that I've taken this through in a guided meditation. When I tell them this, they're like watching a Star Wars screen and the lights are coming at them. Sometimes people see them being held by this great big set of hands like they're being swung in a hammock. Some people see millions of colors like fractals. It's different for everyone. But even if you don't get anything, just saying it once a day will change your world from bleak to, a wonderful place of benefit.
These are concepts I have never heard before, Maureen. Gosh, I love this.
It also that gets your heart going also too when you say those words, right?
Well, I'm glad you said that. Now, is this Salma?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to get your voices straight. Okay, so that's a very good point, Salma. And I was joking around the other day, and honest to gosh, it occurred to me recently that what I do is use the mind to open up the heart. I use the mind to open up the emotions. And I'm literally, those of us who are kind of stuck in our heads are using these tools to expand our consciousness. And frankly, when you're stuck, you do have your mind, usually. You do have that ability. So not only is it good for recovering A-type personalities, but it's also great for people who are stuck in heavy emotion. They're stuck with heavy dark stuff that's holding them back. So it's very universal in their way of serving people. Yeah, it's a good observation.
Okay. All right.
Very good, Salma.
Oh, no, I just
You
don't
get an A. You get an A.
Off the heart. All right.
Maureen, I do a lot of automatic writing, right?
Okay.
And so every so often I'm saying, okay, who am I writing to? And one day it'll be the higher self. The other time it'll be my guide team or my God team or, all my cheerleaders from beyond. How do you discern, and does it really make a difference, I guess, who you're dialoguing?
It does make a difference.
It does? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Well, just like if you're having a conversation with your daughter, it's different than the conversation you have with your mother or your cousin or your aunt.
True
There might all be female, but you're going to have a different dialogue.
True
so I
enough.
think it is important. Now, it's very interesting to me because I think the words are very important. And I don't know if you meant to say this, but you said you ask who are you dialoguing to. And
who I'm dialoguing with. Because sometimes
exactly.
I just don't know. Once it was
right.
two people named Beth and John. I thought, okay, I don't know who you are, but hey. But I got to say, though, that the messages are always loving. They're always global in nature. It's kind of interesting.
Well, when I received your email, there is such a powerful energy coming off of you that it was like a magnet for me. I couldn't not respond to you.
Oh.
And I get 100 emails a day.
I bet you do.
I'm scanning them and moving pretty fast, and I often don't read every email. Somebody else comes in later and does that, but your email jumped out, and I had to respond right in the moment. So
that's the power I've got. Okay, folks, if you get an email from me, you know the power behind it.
That's the same thing that happened with us, Maureen, is that they're just something you just had in essence. We were going to say, we have to get her as a guest. It's just an energy surge. And, where that came from or whatever, I'm not sure, but it was just like a connection. And it was just like
well, and it's interesting. One of the things that you guys are working with this particular time is the energy of the Earth Horse. And I am very big on Chinese astrology.
Oh, good. Well, maybe that's part of it.
That certainly was part of it. And I feel very strongly about the energy of the Earth Horse because I can feel that energy in the wind, and I can feel the power of it moving forward. And by the way, I love that graphic. It's so gorgeous.
Isn't it though? Yeah.
Yeah. So. Everybody who's listening, there is such power, with this particular cycle that we're in that's going to be with us till, probably the end of January of next year. You really want to, jump on the bandwagon, but at the same time, remember that it's good to be uncertain and get comfortable with being uncertain for a little while, because when you shake things up, it's very important that you validate the fact that you don't know what's coming next. One time I was told very directly no workshops in the month of July. And this was years ago when I was still living month to month. And the idea of not having any workshops for a whole month terrified me because my financial system was like $10,000 a month. So I had to generate, a lot of money to cover my expenses and cover, a wage for me. Mm-hmm. And so when I was being told this, what was happening is we would check in on every single workshop that we would book. And it was very odd. We kept noticing that we were booking workshops before and after July, but nothing was showing up in July. And we finally said, what's going on with July? And that was the answer, no workshops in July. So then my future husband that I sort of knew he was my future husband, but I was in denial about it, said, well, if you're not working in July, why don't you come and, visit me for that month? And I can tell you that part of me didn't want to do that because I was afraid that I wouldn't have anything to show for it because I was so used to doing it that way. So I told everybody that I was going to reinvent myself. And I made it up, but I didn't know I had made it up. Basically, all I had been told was no workshops. And so at the end of that time period, my very sharp administrative assistant said, so, why don't you write a message and tell everybody how you've reinvented yourself and blah, blah, blah. And I burst into tears. And I said, I can't do that because I didn't do anything. And I'm so mad that I didn't do anything. So then I repeat this to my sister. And aren't sisters just the best because they call you on your stuff? And she said to me, Maureen, you made that up. You even told me, you were told no workshops. You never said to me you had any guidance about reinventing yourself. You just added that so you could feel good. So, it's interesting how we make room for what we're told to do, and then we kind of fix it to make it look pretty. And in my case, I had never taken a whole month off. Isn't that interesting?
That's like Selma and I, eh? We've never done that in all the time we worked together.
Yeah.
We haven't taken any
Well,
time off,
having worked, from the time that I began working full time, same with me, over I don't want to say because then I'll be really aged, but a long time, many, many years. And even when I was working in the corporate world, I took all my vacation time one day at a time to make long weekends, so Friday through Sunday or Friday through Monday, so I could travel to a city and do a workshop and then fly home Sunday night.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a lower self, Maureen? Is there such a thing as a lower self?
There is. There is a lower self. I'm so glad you asked that. And the lower self is the version of you that looks after you and keeps you safe. So it's made up partly of your ego. It's made up of your emotional body. So think about your emotional body, that there's a lot going on there. Then think about your desire body, and that's pretty much run by either the sensations of the body, which could include the sexual sensations or the food sensations. All those parts, the desire body, the emotional body, the ego, all are part of the lower self. Now, in addition to that, intuition is part of the lower self. So you can get good intuition, but that's still your lower self. And your lower self is reactive to a situation. So let's say your intuition is giving you the idea that you need to finish up the dishes tonight and get to bed, and then the next morning there's so much chaos, you're just so glad that the dishes were done, you could get into the kitchen, do what you need to do, and get out and get going with your day. That's reactionary. It's reading the field. Or, a more dramatic story, which is kind of another, made-up story, is imagine you're driving up a mountain and you're going kind of fast. You're in a great car that's got the top down. You're enjoying it. You're enjoying the speed. And all of a sudden you think, oh, my gosh, I better slow down. And another car comes towards you, coming the other way, going down the mountain, and you have to swerve to get out of his way because he's gone left of center. You're safe. You haven't gone flying off the curb. That's still your lower self or your intuition telling you. Your higher self is proactive. Your higher self will come to you as you're driving up the mountain and say, there's a overlook coming up, pull over and take some pictures. So you do. And when that other crazy driver comes down the mountain going left of center, where are you? You are not in the action. You're not in the fray. So your lower self is reactive to the environment, but your higher self is proactive and pulls you out of what you and I would call danger. But it's not even considered danger because the minute you're not in it, you are in no danger. You get it?
Okay.
Because at 5D, your higher self, and that's another term I used, your 5D self, your 5D self or your higher self is proactive, and it puts you where you need to be, so there is no polarity issue in the first place. So higher self is proactive, lower self is reactive. So, all these terms we've heard in, the business world, really start to make sense when you apply it this way and you begin to see things that you've never seen before and never understood before. So intuition is good. Now, here's what happens. When people study with me and they learn this higher self work, they say, well, I can follow these rules, and one of the rules is no divination tools. That means for 6 weeks, you're not allowed to use your pendulum, you're not allowed to use muscle testing, you're not allowed to use cards, none of it. You have to let it all set it aside for 6 weeks. So they say to me, well, after the 6 weeks, can we go back to using it? And I jokingly say, but I really mean it, yeah, you can, but you won't want to, because your higher self is so much more accurate. Because your pendulum can deceive you. You know, I gave a presentation to the Pendulum Association of Canada one year, and I had this room full, like 250 people, all who were dowsers. And I said to them, all right, I'd like a show of hands. How many of you have had your pendulum deceive you or let you down, you know, not tell you an accurate piece of information? About 80% of the hands go up. Mm. And so I looked at them and I smiled and I said, so everybody with your hand up, thank you for being so honest. The rest of you, you're in denial.
Yeah, very much like muscle testing. Muscle testing has kind of let me down a few times as well.
Exactly,
sure.
But your higher self won't.
Right.
And that's astounding to people because nobody can get between you and your higher self. There's no outside energies because it's all you in your communion with your divine self. Pretty amazing.
Right, and the more you trust your higher self, the more in communion you are with that aspect, the stronger I'm sure it gets.
Yes, but it's a very interesting thing that you say that. I want to offer to you and our listeners the fact that we're not supposed to trust the higher self. We're supposed to play with the higher self for 6 weeks. And at the end of that playtime, you will observe how accurate it is, and then you don't have to trust it. You know it. It's like, do you trust that the sun's going to rise? No, you know the sun will come up.
Right.
And so the point is, when you go through this practice cycle that I teach and help people through, what happens is you're only allowed to do things that don't matter. You're only allowed to work with your higher self on stuff that you don't care about the outcome. And then what happens is, let's say you want to go to a restaurant and you want to meet a friend and you call them up and you say, where do you want to go? And they say, I don't care. And you say, well, I don't care. And they say, yeah, but I chose last time, you choose. So you ask your higher self because you really don't care. And you can go to the Chinese place or you can go to, you know, the raw foods place. And you ask your higher self. And your higher self says, go to the Chinese place. And you think to yourself, really? I've been doing so good with that raw food thing. Really? Yes. Higher self, yes. So you tell your friend, okay, we're supposed to go to the Chinese place. And you show up, and you're standing in line at the buffet, and you look up, and there's somebody you haven't seen in 5 years that you've been looking for and wondering whatever happened to them. And there they are in front of you. Stuff like that will happen. So in the course of 6 weeks, and it takes 6 weeks to get new DNA, so what happens is over the course of that time frame, your ego's watching in the background. Your ego's looking at that. And it's like this, you know, if I start winning at the races and, you know, I tell you, hey, I won 5,000 3 weeks ago and last week I won 2,000 and you know, yesterday I won 10,000. I'm going to the races tomorrow. You want to come? Of course you're going to say yes. And that's what happens. The lower self, the ego, the personality, as the casual observer about stuff you don't care about, sees all the interesting, positive, wonderful, proactive things that occur as the outcome of this higher self knowing. And at the end of that time period, it's an easy decision for the ego to say, hey, I'm with her. And I like to say that the ego and the higher self get married and become one will.
Ooh.
God's will.
Ooh.
And so are we throwing in the angels and guides just so to be kind of like being bridesmaids to this arrangement?
Exactly. That's well done. You guys are good. I love how you play because it's true. And that's exactly what I say in the book. You know, your angels and guides, they want you. They want you to succeed, and they encourage you to succeed. It's their job to help you reconnect yourself with your God self, because that is where we're headed. You know, we're all going to become our God selves.
When you're asking your higher self this question, or the questions over the course of these 6 weeks, how do you know it's their answer? The answer of the higher self and not something else?
Well, first of all, you're not allowed to ask open-ended questions.
Okay.
So what we do is, and we can take you through a little bit of a guided meditation, and we can play with that at some point in our call. But
so
you
yes
actually,
and no questions.
Right. So you can know, and your yes and no questions are set up so that you get a symbol or signal. Now, the very first time I do it with people in a lot of environments, I don't even tell them what to expect. So, those of you who are on the call, you're a little bit at a disadvantage because if you don't know what to expect, it's actually better because then it feels more authentic when your higher self gives you a symbol or signal for the word yes. But sometimes it's something you're already getting. Maybe it's a feeling in your stomach. Maybe a color appears. Maybe a sound always sounds. But most people at the very first try, when I walk them through it, they will get a simple signal or symbol for yes. And then we do the same with no. And then we do the same with neutral. And you're only allowed to ask questions that could be answered with a yes, no, or neutral. And the reason for that is because you're in a practice period and you're learning the language of the higher self. So the fastest way to learn a new language is you have to learn the first word of the language, which is yes. Think of how many ways we say yes in the English language. You bet, uh-huh, of course.
We nod our heads,
in.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, all of those.
Yeah.
So what happens is once you get a clear signal that you can rely on, and that's what the practice period is about, you purposefully only ask yes-no questions. Now, invariably, I get funny things that happen that people ask me about, and I'll share some of those stories with you if you'd like. It'd be great to kind of give you a heads up on how some of these things work. For example, an engineer who was in a class and had written me and said, Maureen, it's not working for me. And I said to him, well, Peter, what are you using for your question? Give me an example of how you're practicing. And he said, well, for example, on my drive home from work, I'm asking my higher self if the light will change before I get to it. And I started to laugh, and I said, well, Peter, you're trying to, figure it out. And he said, no, actually, I really don't care whether I get home 5 minutes sooner or not. And I said, but Peter, the very fact that you're asking a predictive question means you can know the results. And if you're in a practice period and you're not supposed to keep score, you're keeping score. And he said, well, how will I know if my higher self is right? And I said, the whole point is you're not allowed to care. So it's more like taking a bucket of balls to the driving range and, swinging your golf club at the ball and, doing your best with the driving range, or standing in the foul line at a basketball court with a bin full of balls and you're just aiming at the foul line. You don't pay any attention to the balls that don't go where you want to go, and you only notice the ones that give you the results you want. And you're not keeping score, but you're allowed to notice if something cool happens, and that's it. So it's not about whether it's right or wrong. So one of the rules is no predictive questions, because predictive questions force you into keeping score, which is not permissible because it's play. If you're keeping score, it's not play. So, if you ever played a game where you kind of play but you don't keep score, it's very interesting to do that. Especially important for kids to be able to do that.
Yeah, in schools or something like that. They don't, you just, you play, even like playing basketball or something like that. It's just that it's the love of the game. You don't look, they don't even keep a point system. Somebody scores, yay, yay, and the other goes the other opponents or something like that. It's just the,
Exactly.
You're trying to teach,
exactly.
It's not about winning or, losing or something like that. It's just being there.
Right. Very cool. So what you do then is, over this cycle of time, the only thing you have to do is ask about things that you don't care about. So, if you've got your face fixed for some bonbons, don't be asking your higher self if you should have one. Just have it. One of the things I always say, whatever you do, don't decide to quit smoking or some other important thing that you've been doing that you've wanted to quit by asking your higher self during your practice period. Because during your practice period, you have to follow the protocol pretty strictly. It's only for 6 weeks, but at the end of the 6 weeks, you have such accuracy that it's like with you for the rest of your life. You know, it's amazing what you get as a result of a very specific protocol. And the lovely thing about a protocol is this: so many people say, I just don't know what to do. You know, I'm willing to put the time in, I'm willing to put the effort, I just don't know where to start. And this protocol is pretty straightforward. Just step 1, step 2, step 3, like that. It's very fun.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Maureen, do you want to do a special meditation or an activation for our listeners right now?
I would, actually. I'd love to do a very special meditation that would not only activate them in connecting to their higher self, but it will also allow them then to have this experience of checking in. But before I do, I want to tell a fun story. Now, you've heard me use the word check-in a few times, and I haven't defined it, and I'd like to stop and do that. Okay. And I use the word check-in as a shorthand for checking in with your higher self. And, you know, we use the word check-in when we go to the airport. Did you check in? And we mean, did you check in with the airline and get your ticket? So, but among the circle of students, when they say to one another, did you check in on that? The real meaning is, have you checked with your higher self? Okay. So my adult son is friends with one of my students in another city, and I introduce them, and they're not big socialites or anything like that, but they occasionally see each other and they enjoy talking with one another. And one day I was kind of joking around with my eldest son, who's over 35 years old, not practicing this work, but just a regular engineer, regular guy. And I was making a joke because, all sons think their mother is not a very good driver. They always think they're better drivers than her. So I said to my son, when I'm in Chicago, my friend Seth is going to let me drive his new Beamer. And without skipping a beat, he looked at me and he said, Mom, Seth must not have checked in before he told you that.
There you go.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So I really want all of our listeners to know how much love there is. And I did what you did. I totally burst out laughing. And, of course, in my heart, even though my son doesn't outwardly practice some of the things I teach, the fact that he understands and would, put something in my face to be funny, and I would laugh like you did, like you both did, you have no idea how much that makes you feel like you're really doing what you came here to do. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are listening, I want you to know I feel the same way about you. I care deeply about everyone who studies with me. And I carry this mantle of the teacher, if you could call it that. And this mantle of the teacher inspires me to connect with you in very special ways. And because of that, you can ask for that connection for yourself. And when you do, you will get a special dispensation. And those students that do that will call me and say, I had a conversation with you in the dream time, or you came to me in my meditation, blah, blah, blah. And I encourage you to capitalize on that. I am at your service in that way to serve the higher consciousness of humanity. So if you're ready, I would like to go ahead and do that meditation.
That'd be lovely. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to start with asking each of us to find a quiet spot to sit and to be comfortable. Have your feet flat on the floor or up in the air, whatever works for you, but don't cross at the ankles and don't cross at the knees. Uncross in those ways. And if you have a way to hold your hands that makes you happy, great. If you don't, put your hands on your lap with your palms up and your back somewhat straight. You could still be in a lounge chair and listen if you wanted, or an office chair. Wouldn't matter. And then as you keep your eyes closed, I want you to stay with me for a moment while I count backwards from 10 to 1. And we're going to drop into a very lovely state of well-being. So we start with 10, and we think about everyone we love, everyone we care about. And that's a 10, the blessings we have in our life. And then we go to 9. And at 9, I want you to think about a pet that you may have either known or had, or a friend had that you felt close to. Maybe even a connection you had, like in a dolphin swim or anything like that. And allow yourself to go to that zone. Then go to 8 and drop down into this feeling of the love that you've always wanted from your parents. And know that no matter what they did, the best they could, but now you're giving them permission to give you the love you've always wanted. And now 7, we're going to go into a place of introspection where you look at aspects of yourself. And at each level as we drop down, it gets smoother and quieter, and the body is getting more still and relaxed. And you think about maybe you have a nice smile, or maybe a great laugh, or maybe people like the way you use your hands. And think about what you like about you. And then go down to 6. And think about how you like to nurture others, how you like to look after others, and how good it makes you feel when someone tells you that they feel well cared for by you. Now 5. Think about some beautiful piece of music that makes you really happy. And just naming some lovely piece of music that you really love. Knowing that you could listen to it right now if you wanted will help you shift. And then going deeper to 4, where you know that you know things. How to look after yourself. How to make sure you're okay. How to be safe. Whether it's climbing in bed at night, knowing you have a nice bed to be in, or being able to fix a meal. Things you know in your heart that you can always do. And then 3. This part is really special. You're tuning into the family and friends that you care about. Now these people are your real family, your divine family. And they could be people that you're not related to. They can be people that are physically close or far away, but they're your kindred. And your sharing with them makes you feel very special. 2, you're really low and deep and relaxed. And as you think about unconditional love, there may be one person in your life that you really loved. They may or may not be with you now, but you know what it felt like to be loved, and you know what it felt like to love. And if you've never had that, then we'll ask God in this moment to show you how much you are loved. Which now moves us to 1. And that knowing we are one with God. And even if you don't have any reason to believe it, to allow it to be true for just a moment, that if you were God and if you are God, then everything's okay, no matter what. Now, in this peaceful state, I want you to turn your attention to your heart. And as you focus on your heart, allow your heart to open a door, and inside your heart there's an upper chamber and a lower chamber, and both are very inviting. And you decide to go to the lower chamber, which represents unconditional love for all of humanity. And as you tune to that, you begin to realize how special everyone is. And you forget that even if there's moments when you don't care about someone, or you don't care for their behaviors, you really love everyone. And you think, wow, that's a pretty cool place. So you come back up the stairs from that one with that renewed sense of love and appreciation for all of life. And then you go into the upper chamber, which is the love we hold for a significant other, for the divine self. And we allow it to be our higher self. And the minute you think about the higher self, your attention is drawn up your pranic tube, that central column that runs from the crown chakra to the perineum. So you move right into that column, past your throat chakra, past your third eye, past the crown chakra, above your upper chakras, and into this zone known as the higher self. And the higher self is also known as the storehouse or the treasury in heaven of everything you've acquired in all of your lifetimes. And suddenly you're standing before a beautiful chair. And in the chair is a magnificent being who looks remarkably like you. And you might even catch yourself thinking, well, who is that? And we give you the obvious answer. It is you. And it is you who knows no restriction. You who knows no boundary and feels the love of God all the time. And this other version of you says, I am your cosmic double. I am your cosmic double. And you say, what does that mean? And the being says, it means I'm the same as you. I'm just a little more cosmic than you. So at this point, you get that awareness and you invite your higher self. I've opened up my heart. I've cleared the path. I'm inviting you to come and live in my heart, in my 3D body. And your higher self says, I've been waiting for this invitation. I am so ready. And in a flash, the two of you are back in your heart. And the presence of your higher self in your heart causes your heart to expand energetically. And it now has a golden glow that was not there before. And this is where the work of you and your higher self begins. So you say to your higher self, I really want to improve my connection. And your higher self might say, well, you have a pretty good connection. You know, you've been doing really well with this stuff. And you go, yeah, I know. Thank you. But I want to make it better. So no matter where you're at on this continuum, you can always improve it. And you say, you know, I'm grateful for what we have, but I'm ready to take it to the next level. And again, your higher self says, well done, because I wanted to make sure you were ready. And if you only took it at the level you're at, then that would hold you back. But because you're now ready by asking, I don't care where I'm at, I want to go further. So you say to your higher self, this is awesome. What I need from you is clear symbols or signals. I need to know a symbol or signal for yes. Can you give me my symbol for yes? Will you give me my symbol for yes? And the higher self says, of course. And at this point, something special appears. You might hear the word yes. You might feel a sensation in your body. You might hear a sound in your head. You might feel a sensation on the right side or left side of your body. Higher self, give me a symbol or signal for no. What does no look like, feel like, smell like, taste like? Ask your higher self. For that symbol. Now, one more time, ask your higher self for one more signal, and that's neutral. Higher self, give me a symbol or signal for neutral. Now, take a moment and say to your higher self, I am so grateful for this information, but I do have one more request. Will you practice with me? Will you play with me? And I'm going to practice for 6 weeks from today. So take another moment and figure out what that date is. So from this call, on this date, figure out that 6 weeks point. So add a month to today's date and 2 weeks more. It's very important to know your future date for the end of your practice period, because it gives you something to shoot for. And like any graduation, it's easy to look forward to stepping up to the next level. Ask your higher self to show you, to help you, to remind you of this work, of this practice. Ask your higher self to handle the detail, and you will show up. Now, thank your higher self for being with you in this moment. And know that your higher self will stay with you for about 24 hours. And if you don't invite your higher self back into your heart and open yourself up again like this, it might be there, but it might not, depending upon what else is going on. But every invitation usually lasts for at least 24 hours. So we give thanks to your higher self. And as we bring ourselves slowly out of this deep, relaxed state, and we're going to count forward up to 10. Think of you and your higher self as one. Know that you, in your 3D body, in the living world, and your higher self are partners, too. Know that your higher self and you and God make a great threesome. 3, 4. As you follow this easy to understand protocol, you will find divine order in everything. 5. Notice that it's easier to notice what you're thinking, how you're communicating, and your language will shift and change. 6. When you're feeling owie, reach out and look after someone else, and it will give both of you some warm fuzzies. 7. When you're alone, read a book, and it won't matter what you read. Grab a book off your bookshelf, open it up randomly, and see what you learn. 8. Know that you are the leader of you. You carry full responsibility for you, and you have a myriad of helpers and servants from God and your angels and guides to support you. 9. Remember that the divinity of God moves through you no matter what, and you can bring that forward in everything you do. And 10. Open your eyes and allow your new normal to show up. Amen.
Thank you very, very much, Maureen. That was beautiful.
That's one of the most poignant meditations that I've gone through. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Elsa has not left the building.
We'd love to hear what the listeners thought of this. Oh, look at that. Pat from Priest River says, thank you. I received my symbol. Wonderful.
Nice.
Perfect.
Did you, Karen or Salma, get your symbols?
I didn't for yes, but for no, I got an aching ankle.
Nice. Now, this reminds me of a very funny story. In a huge class, I had this happen, and a woman got an itchy ear for yes. And the lady sitting directly across from her said, I got the same symbol. She said, yeah, but you got to hear the rest of it. I didn't like it, so I told my higher self I didn't like that. So my higher self gave me an itchy foot. And the lady across from her said, the same thing happened to me. And then the lady said, yeah, but wait, I didn't like that either. So then my whole body started to itch. And the lady across from her said, I can't believe I did the same thing. And the original lady said, well, I told my higher self I'd accept an itchy ear. That would be fine.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Now, here's the other part of it. Now, here's another little play on your you only got the no. Did you know you can go through life with only making right turns? So as long as you don't get a no, you're probably okay.
Okay.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
And your higher self will play with you and give you something for yes. You may have, for whatever reason, something coming up that's, like standing in the way of you're getting a good yes signal. You don't want to make a mistake, the old do no harm thing, but you're okay with no. You'd be okay if you got told no. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So maybe you got to work on how you feel about if you did get a yes, would you follow through? Remember we're playing, so there's no risk. It's not like you're deciding anything important. And I will also tell you, one time a woman showed up in class, and we'd had this big lesson, we'd done the work, and they had all the information, and, they're supposed to play. So she decided that morning to do that. And as she's standing there in class, how sometimes women give each other the eye over, and this woman standing across from her is kind of looking at her, and she's got a very interesting combination of jewelry and clothing, and the woman noticed she was being given that look, and she looked over at her and she said, don't even ask. My higher self dressed me today.
That's hilarious.
It is. And it's play, and that's what we want to do. We want to play. So, if you're going out for a big, job interview, for heaven's sake, if you're in your practice period, don't be asking your higher self. Just put on your best business suit and go.
Right.
But if you're in a mood to play and you're hanging out in the house all day, or you don't think you're going to be doing anything that's going to be super important, then be playful and say, okay, higher self, should I wear this top? Yes. Should I wear this bottom? Yes. No. 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 And then keep going till you get a yes. It's very interesting.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like great fun.
It is like fun.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I had my higher self was, more of a traditional, like colors it was telling me. So, that was okay.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. And we wouldn't even use the word okay because that sounds like a little bit of, well, that was okay. Or, some people don't get colors. I will tell you guys, and this is a big revelation, for years and years and years, I didn't know that people dreamt in color.
Oh, is that right? Uh-oh.
I did not notice that I had any color in my dreams.
Oh.
I never noticed a color. So I assumed that I was dreaming in black and white.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, now that you've mentioned it, I don't recall dreaming in color either.
I do. Maybe that's what my higher self was saying. Okay, well, we'll stick to the colors. Both of us will stick to the colors here, We don't want to drop the boat.
But see, that's something that your consciousness is good with and comfortable with, and so that's what happens, yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
That's excellent. Most excellent.
Oh, great.
Most excellent.
Okay, so we're gonna I know there's a lot of people on the call. They got their hands up, a lot of questions coming in. But Maureen, can we take a few minutes and talk about your special offer that you put together for our listeners?
Yes.
So could you maybe just take us through some of the components? Let's just the first item you got a meditation to the archangels, which is a MP3 download, and it's almost like a 30-minute journey taken to the realm of angelic possibilities is really great. Now, you also got item number 2. This is really caught my eye, the mantras for ascension. Now, especially using the words kadosh. Am I saying that correctly?
The traditional Hebrew pronunciation would be kadosh.
Kadosh.
Or kadosh.
Okay, so saying that, it's helping you mend a broken heart. Tell me more about that. How did that come about?
Well, that was a very interesting experience for me. Someone had sent me a recording of a professional singing group that had recorded those words, and I was familiar with them, but I didn't know that they would do that because I had been told to use that phrase, kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth, if I was astral traveling and I was afraid or I felt like dark energies were coming towards me. But what happened is I was intrigued by the fact that this group was, had sung a little song and had it in it, and I found in listening to it that I had an energetic response to it, and I was going through a tough time and needed that, and so I took that chunk, and this is back in the days when people had cassette tapes, and I dubbed over that one little piece over and over and over till I had 80 times in repetition, and then I would play that tape, just those words, in a song format, and wow, it would just lift my spirits. And what I found out later is the true meaning of J.J. Hurtak interprets it as holy, 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 Lord God of hosts. But I worked with a linguist who knew both Hebrew and Aramaic, and with her help concluded that the true meaning of this word, the set of words, is forsake, forsake, forsake all that is not of God. Now what happens when that energy moves through a space, either, your room or through your, if you're singing with it, what happens is everything that is not of God kind of fades away. So the only thing that's left is you and God. And that's why it mends a broken heart, because you cannot possibly stay in that state of unhappiness when it's you and God, and that's all that's there. It's like clarifying water. So that meditation is huge. And I looked and looked and looked to try and find somebody who had recorded it that way, and nobody did, so I did it.
Yeah, you did it. It's very, very powerful. A lot of good testimonials.
And then the other chant on that CD is a chant that clears the pranic tube and opens you up to your divine connection in a way that allows you to be connected to the elemental kingdom as well. And it works on clearing your pranic tube. So I have an irreverent name for this chant, this Hathor chant, and that is that it's a colonic for your pranic tube.
A colonic for your pranic.
But it's very visual. People get what that does then.
Yeah.
You know, they remember.
Yes, they do.
I got a visual. Okay, this is good. Yeah, really fantastic, you know, again, clearing emotions. And then you've got the crystal elenium. Is it the MP3 about the crystal DNA? So what is the history behind that? Because I think you were asked to drop everything and make this audio, were you not, Maureen?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The crystal Elohim is a meditation that takes you through the certain colors of the rainbow in a very specific way and works you up to a place where you're actually activating your crystalline DNA. And I have had remarkable results myself. I've had remarkable results with my students and customers and clients. And this energy is so powerful that just doing it will amp you up for anything you're ready to do next. No matter where you're at, it will take you up a whole notch. It's phenomenal. And it's fun in the sense that you could even do the last 5 tracks as their own little mini version in case you don't have time to do the full 30 minutes. Again, it's one of those meditations where you're hearing me and then I make a space for you to say your own part. You can either repeat after me or change it up after me as you see fit. I'll tell you a cute story. A woman called me from Canada and said, my husband works swing shift, and whenever he's on third shift, he wakes me up and keeps me up half the night because he can't sleep. One night I rolled over and I handed him my headphones and I said, here, listen to this. And it was the crystal Elohim. And the next morning he said, wow, that meditation was so phenomenal. I had the best night's rest I've ever had. From now on swing shift, when I do that third shift, I'm listening to that CD. And he's not even into this stuff.
No, remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've got a testimonial from Karen Mueller, and she says on this particular MP3, says, I immediately began to feel my body vibrate to a higher frequency at the molecular level. As a result, I became lighter and experienced an incredible expansiveness. So great stuff. So there's more here. You've got letting go of anything, and you've also got dancing in the river of golden opportunity, and this is channeled directly from the Akashic Records. So tell us a little bit more about that experience of going.
What happened with that CD is I was actually doing Akashic Records reading for myself, and I, as a good channel to the Akashic Records, you do that work as well as for your clients. You don't just do for your clients because you want to keep evolving and being of service at a higher level. And at one point I was told, keep dancing in this river of golden opportunity. And so I developed a meditation, and one day I received a phone call from another business owner who was a good friend of mine, and everything was in dire straits. She had 3 different customers, all owing her then $6,000, $10,000, $5,000, and she was really in a bad way. So I said, well, I've been doing this meditation. Would you like me to walk you through it? And she said yes, and she called me within a few hours and said, that's amazing. Everything has shifted. I got 2 phone calls. I'm going to have checks by tomorrow. The next time she was in dire straits, same drama, same results, and she called me again and said, I cannot believe it. Same story. The third time it happened, I went to the altar and said, am I supposed to take this out to the world? So it's kind of, sometimes even when you're, a guide and a direct connect to source, you don't always see what you're supposed to do with the things that have been given you. It's very funny, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So she kept calling me, and in order to get her to stop calling me is to put it out there for everybody, and then she could do it on her own instead of having me take her through it every time.
There you go.
Good one there. And you also got a Fountain of Youth and the Unify Soul Retrieval Kit. What is that all about there?
Well, first of all, let me just back up and say Fountain of Youth is for anybody who has body pain, aches and pains, minor irritations, anything that's holding you back in that way. Amazing stories of people who have used the Fountain of Youth CD. So don't overlook it because it's a simplified thing. It's a phenomenal meditation. Even I use it all the time. Now, Unify. This is an amazing tool. It's a body of knowledge that I created to help people do soul retrieval on themselves so they don't have to go to a shaman. They can do it at any time they want, and they can do it over a specific event, or they can do more of a global one, like everything that happened to me up till now. If you've had traumatic experiences, whether it's a car accident or a shocking piece of news, and you have to cope with that. Every time you tell your story, you break off a piece of yourself so you can cope. You get to a point where you kind of change the balance of this deep grief or deep heavy emotion, so that you're like 51% okay and then 49% not okay. But you really kind of shrunk yourself in doing that to make that happen. So what happens is in this process, we actually take people through a process where they do a certain set of meditations in the evening, and then they do another set of meditations in the morning. And it is remarkable, remarkable, remarkable. We have had so much amazing feedback from people on how different they feel. And again, this was one of those things where I was shown what to do after my sister died in a car crash. And step by step, I did it for myself. And I actually received a phone call from a man who had been calling me, every couple of days for 6 weeks. And after this process, he said, "Maureen, you sound like you're all back together." Everyone says that too, by the way. And then we get to the good, juicy stuff, the higher self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, connecting with your higher self, parts 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. My goodness.
So these two are downloads of an actual class that I did with a small group of people, so you can really track what we're saying. Lots of questions being answered, lots of interaction, quite a few meditations where we take people through. Anyone who was unable to get it with the first try, then we took what I call the workaround in a whole different way to take people through to make a connection with the higher self. And so that's in those 2 downloads. And those 2 downloads together normally sell for about $100, like $55 a piece, because they're actual coursework that I take people through. And it does include, a PDF handout so you can follow along and do what you're supposed to do. And then
the drum roll. Where's the drum roll?
This is going to be good. This is going to be good.
So the live class is Time With Me. And as those of you who are on the call with me now, you know that Time With Me live is huge. Every one of my students say the same thing, and that is that when you're in the room with Maureen, when you're in the call with Maureen, when you're actually in a live interaction, there's a special dispensation that everybody gets something that they don't get necessarily any other way. So the opportunity to be there, the opportunity to ask questions, the opportunity in the moment I'm channeling the exact meditation for that particular class, because it can be different each time, So that's hugely powerful, and that would consist of 2 separate classes. And we did pick the dates. I do not know why we did not get that information to you, because I know we picked the date.
There,
okay, good. Maybe it's on the fulfillment side, but it is set up, and I believe those classes are in May.
May the 7th,
and there will be, lots of people who are paying full price for that on that call as well. But you are going to get that as part of your package, which is a phenomenal gift.
Yeah, and so you've got a regular value of these works of yours of over $400, but you've marked this down for Unbounded Potential listeners to $97. And so, folks, let me read a testimonial that Maureen had received. It said, "Dear Maureen, thank you for your beautiful CDs. Your clarity and concise explanations in the Rainbow Angel Meditation and Meditation to the Crystal Elohim are really outstanding and enhance the beautiful experience. The mantras for ascension, well, that was something else. They're also professionally presented. Congratulations on your profound planetary contributions. And that was from Teresa. So again, dear listeners, read through Maureen's special offer details on her dashboard page. Click on the special offer button. And I'm just going to give you the link for that. unboundedpotential.com/offers/Maureen Saint Germain GERMAIN Again, if you click on the special offer button, it'll take you right there, and you don't need to write it down or memorize it. But that is what it is. So again, when you're ready to get some extra help becoming the highest you can be in any given moment, then this offer is for you. This work will open your gateway to heaven on earth. That's a very exciting, empowering thing. Yeah, absolutely.
How is your time, Maureen? Do you have some time to take some questions?
I sure do.
Okay, good.
Oh,
that would
wonderful.
be great.
So folks, if you're on the telephone, you'd like to press *2. Maureen will take your questions, and of course on the dashboard, just write your questions into the question submission box, and Selma will read those. So, I guess I'll take the first one from the telephone here. We have area code 760. Looks like Vista, California. If you could tell us your name and your question for Maureen, please.
Hi, Maureen. My name is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Thanks for everything you've shared so far. It's been of tremendous help to me today. I don't know, do you need a specific question, or is there any general information that you get to share?
You are a very talented person, and what I'm getting is a visual of a deer. And so I will say to you that you're very good at getting away fast and hiding. And maybe it's time for you to do some of this inner work to help you build your self-confidence, because it will.
That makes perfect sense to me. Thank you.
Well, good. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, because just to remind everybody, like Maureen is a numerologist, she's intuitive, she's got the whole list of things. So what an opportunity!
Direct channel to source.
Yeah, exactly.
Directly
channel to
connected
source.
to the ascended
Once the
masters.
question's answered, this is your ideal opportunity.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Great.
Maureen,
Thank you, Nancy.
I'm going to take one from May from Calgary. She says, please, as peaceful as this meditation was, I got nothing. I have been asking for this for 50 years. Many different ways. None of them have worked. I would love anything. Am I blocked? Or, I ask daily for any sign my guards are with me. Help me. What could you say to May?
Well, I will say to May that I was just like you. But I didn't wait 20 years. I made a workaround. And I don't think we have time to take you through the workaround. But it is in the book called Beyond the Flower of Life. It is in the package offer. And I can tell you that just like you, I never got anything. I never saw colors. I never saw images. I can tell you when I went in that first meditation class, when I attended as an attendee, I was so, I guess the word is frozen that way, that the guys in the class were ready to clobber me because I wasn't even getting the basic stuff they were getting. And they had to wait to go forward till I, at least made some progress. So I greatly empathize with you, May. And I can tell you I do have a great workaround. And, that there's an opportunity for you there to get that either through the book, which is very inexpensive, or through the offer, or perhaps if you just want to buy one piece, that's fine too. It is available. I just can't do that here in this environment.
Which audio is that a part of, Maureen?
It would be part of the Higher Self class.
Okay, perfect. Okay, wonderful.
There's lots of comments coming in about, Deborah from the Yukon says, thanks so much. I've got my symbols. Pat from Priest River, she says, thank you. I got my symbols. So, a very, very, very effective meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
We've got a comment here. Hi, even when I pray to Saint Germain or other masters, there is a feeling of not being worthy or good enough. Just not able to heal that old lie and belief. Any suggestions? Thank you.
Yes, I have a very good suggestion. It's found in the book Beyond the Flower of Life. I'll give you, it's in chapter 2. I'll give you a short synopsis of it because I can do that, I think, quickly. There's an exercise there where you write I love you statements from all the people you know that care about you. And then you write a whole bunch of I love you statements from all the people that didn't love you the way you wanted them to, because you're the script writer. You get to change the language, and you have to use a certain formula. And the formula goes like this. In the past, I used to say hateful things to you, but today I can see what an amazing, charming, loving woman you have become, and I am so proud of you. Or in the past, I was very critical of you, but today I can see how wonderful you are and how productive and successful you are, and I am so happy for you. Now, here's what happens when you make those, I'll call them rewrites. You then take that whole batch of statements, both the clean ones and the rewrites, and you record them. And then you listen to it every day for 45 days. And it will change you from the inside out. And all you have to do is listen to your recording. You have to spend an hour maybe doing the work. And if you need more detail, go get that book. If you can get it from what we're saying right now, you should, go do it. But you have to be careful. The but word has to follow the original statement that kind of refers to how they used to talk. So you got to say in the past, or I used to say, or I used to think, or I used to give you those looks, those horrible looks. But today, I can't tell you how proud. I am so proud of you. Now, one of the things about the but word is it's the grand takeaway. When you make those statements like I used to say or think and so on, it gets past the subconscious because the subconscious will only hear what it thinks is the truth. And whatever you heard as a child is like your operating system. So when you make those statements, the receptionist at the back door of your mind, at your subconscious, says, yep, I know that statement. Come on in. We recognize you. And then you use the but word, and it's the big takeaway. But you're already past the reception. You're already past gatekeeper. And you will actually then reframe you from the inside out.
I like it. Yeah. Thelma.
Okay. Don from Frankfurt, he's saying, I am 66 years old. How long do I continue in my career? And he's also wondering how to support and help his daughter prosper and grow healthy, wealthy, and wise, completing her license. Looks like her LCSW, maybe her social work. What kind of a hit are you getting from Dawn?
Number one, the first part of the question, I'm going to give short answers because it's two parts and they're two completely different questions. And I want to make sure I have time for things that are useful for everyone.
Okay.
So the first answer is you will probably easily work until you're 72, and at that time you will very likely be ready to let go of whatever it is you're currently doing. And secondly, as far as your daughter goes, turn into a cheerleader. And when she tells you what she's thinking about doing, don't give her advice. Say, I'm so proud of you. I know you've had a good upbringing, and I am so confident that you will make a good decision. No matter what they say, your job is cheerleader. So it gets tricky for parents. If the adult child comes back and says, no, you're an expert on cameras. I'm trying to buy a camera. I really do want your help. Can you come with me to the camera store? Then they're ready to hear your real advice. But your first advice is always the cheerleader advice.
I'm sure that was very helpful. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a couple more. What do you think?
Rachel just came back. She's from Gardner. Thank you for clarifying the dosing, as I have had problems with earthbound spirits talking to me instead, so I quit. Thought it was just me doing something wrong in the asking. I haven't gotten my symbol yet, but no, I will. My higher self will find the appropriate way to speak with me. Thank you again. That's great. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. That's fabulous.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, this is Nancy from California. Was that Nancy we just spoke to? She said, wow, just this morning I was thinking, how do I know if that hit was from my higher self or from an aspect of me trying to keep me playing small? And then I saw today's guest speaker. I've been developing a relationship with my higher self and would appreciate any guidance on discerning between my higher self and all those other voices. Much love to you all.
Fabulous question. And it's probably the best question to end with.
Yeah.
And that is, you for the 6 weeks of practice, you have to follow the protocol. And the protocol is found in lots of places, as we've already named. You know, we've kind of alluded to most of it. But you follow that protocol. We are only asking, I'm so sorry. Let me step away from that. You follow that protocol where you're only asking the higher self unimportant questions. So when you get that surprise piece of information that you weren't expecting, what you do is you just go with what feels right in the moment, and you don't give it any weight one way or the other. But after your practice period, when you do get those intuitive hits, what you do is you ask, higher self, is this my higher self telling me blah, blah, blah? Only your higher self is allowed to answer yes. Now, the important thing to realize here is it's very important not to try and second guess your history. There is no value in looking at what you've done in the past and saying, I wonder if that was my higher self back when I was told such and such, or I wonder if that was my higher self yesterday when such and such happened. Instead, let all of that be all okay, whatever it is, whatever you've done. Because if you do that, then you're back in ego, you're back judging, you're back in that place of polarity. And your higher self is not a polarity kind of being. So it doesn't serve you to try and reframe your beautiful, loving higher self in this judgmental kind of environment. Instead, play for the 6 weeks. Play at the stuff you don't care about. And at the end of that time period, then you can start asking that question. Was that my higher self? Am I really being told? In fact, I'd love to tell a closing story of how my higher self kept me from being in an automobile accident. I was driving down the road, and it was late at night. I was on an interstate, and a big semi goes past me. And as the semi is passing me, my higher self tells me, get into his slipstream. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's not nice. But I checked in. Is this my higher self telling me to get into the slipstream? Yes, now. And so I did. It was rather urgent. And we're coming up upon a turnoff where I was going to go on a different highway. So as we approached it, I asked again, am I to stay with the truck? Because I wasn't sure the truck was going to go where I was going to go. Yes. And then it turns out the truck was going where I was going to go. So that was good. I felt safe. And then suddenly the truck went far to the right, and he's now on the pavement to the right of the normal pavement, the berm that most people don't drive on.
Kind of the shoulder, yeah.
The shoulder, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And so I said to my higher self, am I to stay with him? Yes, stay with him. And so I quickly moved over. And as I did, another car came the other way at 60 miles an hour, going the wrong way on this ramp.
Mm. Thank you.
When we got off that particular turnoff to the next interstate, I asked, do I need to stay with this guy now? No, you're fine.
Oh, wonderful.
So your higher self, remember, your higher self is proactive, and that's why you want to use it.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, we've got more questions coming in, but again, it's getting late for you, Maureen.
Yeah, we could
late
keep your
for
job.
you.
I
It's
don't know.
bedtime for you.
Probably, close. So,
It's
well,
up
Maureen,
to you guys.
Well, we want to thank you very, very much. We felt your generosity of spirit and compassion, and we knew there was a reason that we wanted you to be a part of our program, and we were just absolutely delighted. And you were informative, and that was a fantabulous meditation that you took us through. I'm still feeling the colors in my higher self. So thank you for being with us. We are forever grateful. It's been such an honor.
My feeling is the same. You guys do a phenomenal job of opening up the space so that your listeners get the maximum, and I am so grateful to be part of it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Maureen. It was a true joy. And thank you to you, our wonderful listeners, for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us on the Unbounded Potential interview series. We appreciate each and every one of you and your commitment to being more empowered. We can't wait to see you back here again as the journey continues. Great amazement, everyone, and goodbye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
We truly hope you enjoyed today's presentation to assist you in going beyond.
Until next time, be more, love more, live more, and never settle for less.